Welcome back to the Automation Podcast, the world's number one industrial automation product and technology show. Thanks to you, our audience of highly skilled automation professionals. Thank you for being a member of our audience, and thank you for tuning back in this week. Now, for those new to the show, my name is Shawn of Insights in Automation, and each week I invite somebody new on the show to talk to us about products and technologies. And during their presentation, I play the role of the audience, asking any questions I think you might have and questions I have as well. Now, given that over a quarter of our audience listens to the show, I'll also try to call attention to any of the details and the visuals that I think you folks may want to know about. With that said, I want to give a very warm welcome to John DeTellem. He's been on the show many times in the past, and he is here to give us some highlights about TIA Portal version 20. I always get excited about new versions of software, and the TIA portals, what programs, the PLCs, the HMIs, and so much of their stuff. So as we've seen over the years and all the guest appearances we've had from Siemens. So with that said, John, welcome back to the show. And I just want to say again, I am excited to learn about what's new with TIA Portal.
Thanks so much, Shawn. It's great to be back with you. And I'll probably be back on as we kind of choose some of these topics to dig deeper into. I just want to do an overview of the recent release of our engineering software, the TI Portal. And of course, every time we do that, there's a whole plethora of other releases that are following the release of the TI Portal related to hardware and software and ancillary solutions around the automation engineering and the solution. And I'm going to try to highlight some of those things in here, even though they fit into TI Portal and some of them that even kind of sit beside TI Portal. Some of the key things that are new that are kind of still on a limited sales release where we provide the information or the release to a customer on a approval type basis is our first releases of what's known as the Industrial Copilot, your generative AI powered assistant. What I found really interesting in a recent show was giving the overview and the presentation related to the engineering side of it. There's many facets of how we've deployed the generative AI assistant, Industrial Copilot, as a product into our overall strategy. But two of the key ones, maybe three, are inside the TI Portal and helping you generate your PLC code and helping generate your HMI and helping to get your answers to any questions that you might have during your engineering time. So I put a link, or I put the words here, how to get to the general overview of that. And we can get a segment with Kristen Kwasi on a deeper dive into the Industrial Copilot. But I was at a show last week that was pretty well received. And then I think we've talked in the past about the Semantic AX. AX stands for Automation Expansion, and that's related to the engineering and commissioning and maintaining of the solution. And fundamentally, what we're doing there is the visual code editor, VS Code, giving the user the capability of programming in structured text and generating the code for the PLCs and the controllers. And that's kind of sitting on the future. And that sits, and I'll do a little bit of an overview of that. You've got all these general DevOps, IT type programming in what is known as the Semantic AX, the editor. This should look familiar to most of your viewers. But basically, it's a code tool for developing the code, testing the code, unit testing, and managing the code online or on-premise for the install. And again, this is a limited release in 2024 as we go into 2025, as we build up some of the first cases of deploying the Semantic AX as the engineering tool for our customers. Now, the Semantic AX, what's cool about it for the engineering of the program for the controllers is there's three variants of how your users, our customers, can deploy the VS Code editor into the controller. One is just to create a library element for the TI Portal, and the general TI Portal engineer, automation engineer for the PLC, will use that library as an executable and download it with his standard TI Portal project into the PLC. A second way is to extend the functionality so that I'm just using TI Portal to configure the PLC and its I/O and its hardware configuration, and getting the PLC basically into a green run mode state. So the hardware is all pre-configured inside the TI Portal hardware configuration, but all the program will be actually Semantic AX. And you use Semantic AX for fundamentally the direct application loading into the PLC, and that's what will execute in the PLC as it runs the program. And then the ultimate goal for a lot of the programmers that want to be in this environment is the full Semantic AX standalone, where you do everything in Semantic AX. And that's not necessarily completely ready quite yet. It's more on a roadmap for a year or a year and a half from now, before we're at the point where you'll be getting more and more of the functionality of standalone. And I put a link there so that we can highlight that again. But fundamentally, it's the www.siemens.com/semantic-AX to get to the more on that topic. But both of those topics are being highlighted significantly at our SPS Nuremberg in November 2024. And my team is focused on supporting customers that are interested to look at the future around these two kind of key topics. Another cool thing that's evolved significantly over the last couple of years is fundamentally doing TI Portal, Step 7, WinCC, simulation, and other topics in the cloud. We use a cloud session that we support a certificate of license for a period of time, and that now will be upgraded to version 20. And what gives you the real power of having a session of the cloud is you have access to all the versions, and you have access to fundamentally all the core Step 7 WinCC and all the options in your cloud session. So it's pretty powerful. It's standard what we use as far as Step 7 WinCC engineering on our local machines. We augment our team with a session of the cloud, and we have access to all the previous versions for maintaining project files or machines for servicing. What we're recently released is a 100-hour voucher, which can be really powerful for people wanting to get started and purchase that segment of time and get started in there. You can do it also for 21 days. This is still a 21-day trial to get up there and do it. It's a good way to get started with TI Portal. And I put a link in there as well. That uses the Cloud Connector. Cloud Connector's a utility that exists on the local PC, or in our case, it can also be on the edge, industrial edge, as an app to connect to the runtime PLCs and basically bridge the ability of the cloud to securely connect to your runtime devices and download and online monitor and troubleshoot to the PLC and the automation networks. And with the release of TI Portal v20 and TI Portal Cloud version 5, we also have a new cloud connector that's been evolved and developed that supports additional functionality. And actually, the cloud connector as an app on our industrial edge is also a new component that's been recently released. Another feature and function that a lot of customers come to us is the ability to basically collaborate together as a team and work together with engineers across multiple states, across the world, and basically serve the project from the cloud. So TI Portal Project Server has been a feature in the TI Portal framework. Basically, it allows you to take a project that's got PLCs and HMIs and check it into a project server. That could be a server in your corporate domain, and then each user who has access to that cloud session can check out a local session and engineer the PLC1, the PLC2, the HMI, or whatever they need to do to collaborate together on the project file, and they just check in their changes to the project server. Well, this year we released the ability to basically serve that project up into the cloud. And then each one of the users that have access to the cloud are now checking in their changes to that cloud session from their local sessions. So these are all pretty cool little things that kind of accentuate the core fundamentally of TI Portal on premise in our automation engineering tools. And you're familiar with these products, right, Shawn?
Oh, yeah. S7-1500s, yes.
Of course, there's the S7-1500s are a phenomenal product line, from the ET200SP controller to the IP65 machine mounted to what we call the 1511s, 1513s, 1516, and even into the redundancy. This is still our core fundamental PLCs that are implemented by most of our customers. But what we're seeing is, an introduction of a new G2 for the 1200 family. That's our small basic controller. Pretty significant things they did with the release of the G2, and I know you're going to have Lewis on here soon as well to do a session on what's integrated with that new platform. But what's pretty significant is it's more closely related to what the 1500 is. So its core functionality and operation is based off of a 1500, which makes it easier for our customers. But it is positioned with a form factor and some functionality that fits the competitive market of that basic and small, more cost-effective controller known as the S7-1200. And they're giving it the terminology G2 for Generation 2. Last year, we introduced the virtual controller, which is fundamentally a software controller on our Edge solution, Industrial Edge. And it's fundamentally an app, like you would download to your smart device and run on an Edge application. What was introduced in the recent release is fail-safe functionality. So that is another way to take whatever we might have done as far as the program blocks in a 1500 and move it into a virtual controller. This is a runtime solution. So it's basically me running in a plant where I have the confidence and I deploy the concepts of the Industrial Edge, and I just want to virtualize the PLC that's running my machine into the Edge solution and take advantage of some of that IPC technology or the Edge technology and what can be done in that environment. But what's really significant to me when I look at all the other things that I've seen in automation over the 35 years that I've been doing it is the fact that it's built on the core fundamental basis of the 1500. And also in the recent release, it supports the Semantic AX. So you can do both. There's a blending opportunity to move what I'm doing in the core PLCs and the hardware PLCs with TI Portal into the virtual world with the Edge app, and then move myself as I prepare to use the AX editor and VS Code to download that into the Edge app as well, without necessarily making significant changes in how I deploy my solutions. We still have a new generation. This is Generation 3, Open Controller 3 of that ET200SP form factor, and this is an IPC, but it looks like a PLC. It's got the capabilities of slapping on the ET200SP IO, but fundamentally it's a PC, IPC, industrial PC, and it has the same functionality as the 1500 families, but in a nice, powerful PC. And I hate it when people forget that we also have a standard software controller. So sometimes the open controller may not fit the needs of a customer because of the hardware limitations of the ET200SP, or the Edge is not quite where they want to be with the virtual PLC. We still have the Semantic software controller, which we've had since the inception of the 1500. Is this software controller, and it's a high-speed, powerful software controller based on the same concepts that we're doing with TI Portal.
Now, let me ask you about that because I'm sure some of the audience are confused, and it's been a while since I looked at this. So the S7 1500 soft controller, this is an application you install on a Windows PC, right?
Correct.
So that would be the classic soft controller I think we all think about. Hey, you get your PC, you install the soft controller. It's just like an SM1500, but it runs on your PC. And out the Ethernet port, you can control your Profinet I/O.
Correct.
The virtual PLC, on the other hand, is designed to run more on Linux, more on an industrial Linux runtime, or in a Docker container. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yes, exactly. Yeah, there's two worlds there when it comes to industrial PCs and the technology that's put out there for those environments, IT managed or operate OT managed PCs, and we've done a very powerful, good job of managing our software controller as it's evolved with our IPC product
Hmm.
family.
Yep.
Over the last 10, 15 years, it's kept up and really becomes significantly powerful. But over the last 4 years, as we've introduced the concept of industrial edge and the Docker solution, and the concept of different apps for different technologies in an industrial edge environment, and the apps all play together, that's where the virtual VPLC sits in that edge system. And the key there is that the apps that reside on the industrial edge will accentuate the concept of the controller with HMI functionality, bus connectivity, open bus connectivity, whatever app you need. It has a cloud connector for bridging it to your cloud. So a variety of different things. So they're all kind of positioned uniquely for different demands of our customers across the world. And they all open up a very interesting, very high-tech dialogue to the different applications.
I think if I could just draw out one difference between them is with the virtual PLC. I'm thinking back to our tech talk we had when you first announced it. That would be a situation where you could have multiple of these virtual PLCs running side by side in their own containers on a server, each controlling their own part of the plant floor. Whereas with a soft controller, I mean, this could be installed on an IPC and even control local I/O. I imagine with that ET200 SP Open controller, could I run the soft controller on that and control the local I/O using it?
The open controller at the bottom here,
Yes.
it is fundamentally the software controller in there. Yeah.
Okay, perfect, perfect. So yeah, so quite a difference there. I could also get the soft controller for just like for testing purposes. Could I run it just on a regular Windows PC?
No, I'd have to verify that, but I'm pretty sure our software controller has still yet only been supported on our PCs.
So if I wanted to use the soft controller, I'd have to buy one of the IPCs it was designed for, guaranteed to run
Yep.
well with. Okay, excellent. All right, great.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering my questions. Go ahead.
Yep. There's fundamental some technology behind the IPC that's ensuring the reliability of the
Mhm.
software controller, and I'm pretty sure at this point it's still targeted only on our IPCs.
Sure, sure. And you got PLC Sim and PLC Sim Advanced for any type of
Correct.
simulation you want to do PC side. Got it.
Absolutely perfect. Yeah, yeah. I didn't even bring in the PLC Sim or the PLC Sim Advanced topics into this session because I was kind of thinking I would propose a virtual commissioning topic for you later.
Oh yeah, that sounds like fun.
Sticking to the controller side of stuff, the engineering of the Step 7 and the controller stuff, another innovation that our development teams worked through in the last year or so was formulating a more readable export of the document for the LAD and the DBs and the UDTs. Traditionally in TI Portal, the export of a ladder file has been to an XML format and required the use of openness and some other tool sets to manage that XML document. In the version 20 there's now a human readable representation of that latter file. The DBs, data blocks, the variable definitions, and the user-defined data table blocks, so that you can do a little bit more tools with DevOps and versioning the documents and reading it and understanding what was different or what was done different about it. So
if I export it in this format, can I re-import it?
Yes. Yeah, the objective was to make that document that a lot of users use in the PLC a little bit more tangible and understandable and manageable for a variety of different tools, especially as they use the version control interface and other tools to run a compare. If you ran a compare on the previous versions of the exports, it was a very complex XML document that was hard to read. Mm-hmm. And this is improving that.
This looks very simple to read.
Hopefully it is. Another significant thing is part of the controllers, and it's actually a part of almost any Siemens hardware device, from the network switches, power supplies, drives, HMIs, is the ability to turn on a web server of the device. And traditionally, turning on the web server provides you access to that device and a full footprint of the diagnostics and status of that device, whether it's a PLC or a switch or a power supply. But what they've done in the version 20 and some of the new firmware for the controller PLCs is enabled this web development of custom web pages, so you can create your own little HMI screen, different than they used to. Basically, it's showing the old way of creating some data blocks and OBs in the PLC that contain the look and feel of the web page, and now we're fundamentally evolving that to where we support more functionality. So it kind of opens up the controllers, in this case, to provide another layer of diagnostics beyond what might be configured with the system diagnostics or the ProDiag to the HMI, or allow you to create your own user-defined web page that could be powerful for managing quality or maintenance of the PLCs for your specific application. And there's a couple pages on here I'm just going to throw out there as kind of an overview that highlight what that means when it comes to HTML5 and JSON and the API. There's a web page shown for the Semantic 1500 and what it looks a little bit different. You can get to a variety of different data points within the 1500 PLC or any one of the controllers, as it mentioned, and basically troubleshoot directly via the browser to the IP address of the PLC. And of course, it has user logon and user management that's built into it. And that opens up this whole concept of what is available when it gets to these kinds of technologies related to web clients and IT and other topics, and scalability for the devices. So I think that's kind of a cool little feature that was kind of built into the new firmware of all of the controllers as they roll out with v20. And of course, drives is another key component of our portfolio, our automation solution. You've had a variety of our drives technical team on your podcast in the past. But I included this in here. It kind of shows the ability of the engineering software, the start drive, the TI portal, to make a backup of the drive that you might have configured or commissioned in TI portal and downloaded. You can basically save that off as a memory file, card file on your local computer, or save it off to an actual SD card, a Siemens SD card, and use it to basically reload the drive from that transfer of the card file to the drive.
That's huge. Yeah. If you need to send a file to somebody over the internet, that can be huge, doing it right in TI portal.
Correct. Yeah. So this card reader functionality USB at the bottom of the project tree. A lot of users aren't aware of it, but I can take an SD card out of the PLC, put it in my computer, and I can read it, upload it out of the card. I don't actually have to be connected to the PLC, or I can put the card or the file, make a virtual file here, and I can actually download the PLC or the HMI to the card and email the file or mail the card or walk out to the plant, put the card in the hardware device, and it's going to read from the card. So I don't have to have access to the TF portal. It's a powerful maintenance thing to understand these kinds of tools.
Yeah, we covered it in my course. I think it's very powerful. We cover how it works both with the 1500 and the 1200. A little bit more limitations, depending which one you use. But of course, with the 1500, you have to have that card, so it has to be a Semantic card. But very powerful and something I think other vendors wish they had. It's just a real cool feature.
It is. It's amazing. The fact that, fundamentally, I change out the hardware device. I pull the memory card out of it. And I put the memory card in the new device, and it runs up and starts back in run mode with just putting the card in there, because the card contains the full operation of that PLC.
Yeah, and the other thing I'll just throw out there while we're talking about this is that, I'm bouncing back and forth between different vendors of PLCs here in my job, and I just love how the Siemens flashed the firmware so fast. It's just like so fast. When we have to change firmwares in a class, if I'm doing the Siemens, it's like no brainer. When I'm doing other vendors, it's kind of like, okay, go grab a coffee. So that's another feature I really like about, and the fact that when you flash the controller, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when I flash the S7, I don't lose the program.
Correct. Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure there's people, with, knives coming out of their eyes pointing at me, but I'm just, I'm independent. I'm just pointing out what I like. Yeah. But in any case, let me turn it back to you.
Yeah. The version of the controller, the version of the drive, the version of the HMI is fundamentally independent of the software. So we don't force that, hey, you're using TI Portal version 20, the controller, the HMI, the drives all have to be the latest version. We support a little bit of, hey, I had a V18 project, I'm going to migrate it to V20, but I'm not going to touch the version of the PLC, the HMI, or the drive, because I just want to use some of the V20 features without requiring, or I don't need some of the hardware changes. So we don't require the upgrade of the hardware. And it also minimizes the risk because I can do a step-by-step approach. Upgrading the project to version 20, download, run, test, and then I could pick which device I want to upgrade the firmware to and make a step-by-step process. Another thing I found pretty cool and I'm not typically supporting the drives, that's Jackie and Raphael and Craig. But I saw this slide and I thought you would see it as kind of cool as basically it looks like there's a compare editor for selecting two different drives and seeing what might be different between them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I've had a few problems in my workshops trying to manage the general purpose drives, the G120s, and understanding what was different in what's running and what was in my project. And I saw this picture and I thought, hey, this is a pretty powerful little thing that came through in the version 20 and the latest version of the drives supporting the ability to do some compare editors. Just shows the evolution of little things as it broadens across all the devices. Another thing that was part of the previous versions was a safety test, safety validation assistant, and fundamentally in version 20, they're releasing a licensed version of what's being called or defined as the safety validation assistant to the users that want to verify, validate, or certify their automation system and do some safety tests. And it makes sense. All the data is there. So new in version 20, you can see it here buried in the project tree on cross-device functions where the traces are and some other topics are. But basically, I define some parameters associated with safety activation tests across the devices that I have in my project. And of course, our devices are, push buttons and detect devices that are wired into the PLC I/O, into the PLC to evaluate, and then our PLC is going to drive some outputs for the reaction of turning things on or off to make the machine safe for itself or for, most importantly, us, the people. And the final step to this is the documentation. The documentation is what we care. We want the machine to be safe, but we also want that documentation to prove that we did our job to validate the safety is functional when we walked away from the machine. So, this is a pretty cool thing, and it might be something that is another topic that we come on board with you, with Garrett, on some of the new safety I/O that's part of our ET200 SPIO and our machine mount I/O related to safety in the version 20, and this feature here to get a deeper dive into understanding there. It is installed in part of the installation of the TI portals. You see this delivery. It's part of the TI portal framework. But like safety and a couple other things, it'll come up and ask for a license key. So here's the license key that comes with that to get that functionality built in. But basically, the workflow is defined here. You have some functionality to define what you want to monitor. You run your test during the commissioning of the machine, or after the commissioning when you're ready to document the final functionality. And then you get the report that you can have as a document. Here it is shown where it exists. And fundamentally, what I like about it, it's defined for supporting all the standard PLCs, distributed IOs, and then the drives, Synamics drives, GE120s and that. Here's a nice screenshot that shows my safety PLC with some network devices that are part of its safety circuit. And then, of course, a drive that might not be connected also can be the evaluator and do a safety test there. All right. So those are some of the big kind of significant things that I think stand out. Here's our standard page that any customer can download from our support site. It's a document that has fundamentally 200 slides of all these details. And of course, like I'm trying to highlight, our TIA, Totally Integrated Automation, is our HMI, WinCC, Step 7 for the PLCs, motion control, start drive for the drives, hardware, and all the options. We've got the whole plethora of different things from simulation, energy suite, the Team Center gateway. It's impossible to try to cover all these in one session. But I'm going to just highlight a couple of them in the next few slides just to kind of close it out and leave it open for the next topics. Like I mentioned, we've got Louis Navarez and for the G2 overview and potentially the controllers as well. And then Alan Cohn and Ramey Miller will probably get with you to do some what's new on the unified side in the near future. Now, you and I we've talked about the integrated system diagnostics in TIA and the ability to set up process diagnostics. That's fundamentally our controllers, our PLCs integrated and connecting with diagnostics from the hardware to the process and the PLC up into displaying that on the HMI. And on the HMI, it can be displayed as an alarm text in alarm windows. It can be described in a control that represents the architecture that's defined in the controller, or a control that represents the actual ladder logic or the code that's problematic in the PLC with the process diagnostics. So there's a few things that have evolved in those two components in the v20, fundamentally around the unified, bringing the unified closer to having full functionality when it comes to the concept of supporting the system diagnostics and the process diagnostics as being used by the maintenance and the operations people to troubleshoot the operation. So in version 20, there'll be some more functionality for our unified basic, our unified comfort, and the unified PC solutions that incorporate both system diagnostics and the process diagnostics. And again, this is another segment that might be worth exploring to kind of help build an understanding of these two topics as they collaborate between the PLCs. Here's a little viewer of the ladder logic on the HMI that's basically pulled out of the PLC. I think it's pretty powerful stuff that I basically get with that tool access to the actual PLC code that's running where the diagnostic in the process was flagged. Another pretty interesting topic that is new to me, and I know you've kind of asked about it before, was how does the TIA and how does TIA portal and our standard S7-1500 controllers support a little bit more process type functionality that we might have in our machines in the discrete world, where there's a little bit of a hybrid going on there. And this is around some new extended functionality around the MTP and this CFL. And these are some interesting acronyms, and they're more library type functionalities and industry support site information where you download libraries and other functionalities. But basically, whatever control function you might have in the PLC, providing some templates and faceplates for the HMI. Does this look familiar, Shawn?
Yeah, the control function library is very interesting, especially given that, what other vendors are doing. They have this library for your S7 that includes the block that goes in the code in the PLC and the faceplate that goes in the HMI. That's very powerful. And we've been following MTP on the show very closely. So seeing that you guys are aligning with that's very cool. Go ahead. Let me turn it back to you.
Yeah, I haven't had much opportunity or requirement to dig into this level of the MTP and the CFL and the process function library. But overall, if you're followers and you are interested, I can get somebody that digs deeper into what we're pulling together so that we fit into that solution as well. It's all based around that modular type programming, efficient engineering topic that we are supporting our customers as they face the challenges of the marketplace to be more efficient with the delivery of their solutions over time. But there's some really good content in this material this month around that topic. As with all of the features, there's a variety of little things that get pulled through based on customer feedback and requirements that get put out there regarding usability and extended functionality. And I won't have time to get into these. I'm just going to throw a little screenshot in here, and I'll include these slides so that you can have them for your reference if there's anything that stands out there. The load preview, you've seen this before, right, Shawn? The download to the I like it. It really highlights everything that's possibly going to be interesting to what is happening to the PLC when I select download. Some people want it to go away or hide it if there's things that aren't necessarily required to respond to. So they've responded to the customer feedback to basically, if there's no action required to initialize the PLC or stop the PLC, the dialog will actually probably go away. Searching as finished. There's been a requirement to circle back, start over again. Software units is an evolving solution for basically segmenting your program blocks into units. And then my F7 block open or block search feature is a way to find anything that exists in the PLC related to text in the female. Of course, TI Portal version 20 will open a version 20 project, and it has the capability of upgrading any project back to v13. They made a mandate at v13, fundamentally 2013, I think, 2014, to support that format all the way through into the future. So v20 will open those projects, any one of the versions. It can be installed side by side with those versions, 15, 16, 17. So I can do operations and engineering in both worlds, v20, v17. And this is another significant thing that I'd like to make sure I highlight. If you are on a v17, you get the upgrade. Your license will go from a v17 to a v20. The v20 license will still activate the previous versions. None of those things have changed. They've always been fundamentally that way. And it really supports usability, maintainability, sustainability of our customers as they support previous versions of software together with the new version. There's an upgrader tool. I do one project at a time in my world, but some people want to do mass updates. So you put all in a folder and run a start upgrade, and it upgrades them. There's a free download of that little tool. AI powered chat in the help. So if you go to the help, or you just do this website, ask support, it will basically get you to a AI powered Siemens support to help you get deeper into your understanding of a problem that you might have. This is new. I might want to share this link with you, Shawn, and you can try it for a couple things to see if it helps you. You have to understand the ways of using AI. You can't just type in a part number and expect it to deliver something like I do. You got to ask it a question. All right. One final thing. There's a lot of libraries and application examples and other tools around the TIA and the TI portal. This is new as well. In version 20 it's called the package manager, and it's a separate download and standalone little tool on your environment. But it basically kind of allows you to manage packages around what you might be doing with TI Portal. So it helps you connect or manage your libraries, global libraries that might be files in different locations or on different servers. Add-ins are another executable or tool set to the TI Portal, or application examples. So this is a new release through our headquarters folks that I think is a time saver and a concept to help us organize some of the things that exist around our TIA. And here's another link. Basically, again, www.siemens.com/ the topic that you're looking for. That's a pretty general thing. Anytime you're looking for something, you can just do the www.siemens.com/ and then type out what you want. Just put dashes between things like Semantic HMI, put a dash between Semantic and HMI, or just type unified and see where it goes. I try, sometimes I miss it. ET200SP goes to the ET200SP, S7-1500, S7-1200. I use that a lot. So yeah, I'll get you some links. The TI portal will be in our industry support in our C portal pages with a full detailed review of all the different components. This slide set that I used will be posted there as well, but it'll be more complete. It'll be the 2 days long presentation of 200 slides. You can download the updates, you can download the trial, you can access the cloud. All those things are possible with the release of TI Portal v20, of course. A little disclaimer, in case I got anything wrong or incorrect. And then I just do a final little thank you, Shawn, for having me back on your show.
Well, thank you, John, for coming back on. I really appreciate you giving us an update on V20. I'm gonna have to go get the long slide deck, and that'll be something I can read over lunch tomorrow. But in any case, thank you for hitting the highlights. A lot of exciting new stuff, and I know the audience loves this because they're like a lot of them don't have the time to go through the slide deck, and so they're listening to this on their ride to work or after work while they're doing yard work or whatever. But I do want to thank the audience for tuning back in, and I want to thank you, John, for coming back on and again bringing us up to speed on TIA Portal.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode. I want to thank John for coming back on the show and bringing us up to speed on TIA Portal version 20 and some other things as well. And also want to thank Siemens for sponsoring that episode of the show. Wasn't it nice to have no commercials? I also want to thank you for tuning in and listening. I really appreciate that, guys. We have a number of shows coming up before the end of the year, so please keep tuning back in. And, feel free to give us a like, a sub, a share, or on the audio platforms, give us a 5-star review, because that's really the best way for us to find more people to listen to the show and more people to come on the show. And with that, if you know anybody who wants PLC, HMI, or SCADA training, we do it online and we do it here in our office on both Rockwell and Siemens right now. So if you know anybody interested, please have them reach out to me directly. And with that, I want to wish you all an awesome week. I want to wish you good health and happiness. And until next time, my friends, peace.